Did you know that when parents are asked what they would do if they had 1 extra hour every day, most parents say they would use it for sleep? Are you exhausted trying to balance kids, work, and play? Do you want more purpose and less monotony in your life? Do you get overly irritated, frustrated, and angry with your children? If you've answered yes to some of these questions, then I'm glad you're here. I know how busy you are, and I'm not here to take your time. I'm here to help you take it back. Close your windows, open your mind, and let's kick some ass. Say hello, governor, and welcome to Kick-Ass Dad's first episode. I could not be more thrilled to be doing this podcast, and it's been incubating for a while, and it's something that I am truly passionate about. And I love being a parent so much, and I really think that there's so much opportunity to be better every single day, and that's what I strive to. I strive to be a better parent every single day. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this podcast was because I had a friend come to me and ask me, what I was doing. And, I've just been studying a lot of parents out there and just personal development leaders and people who really seem to have their act together, and just been putting those things in place for a long time now. And I really feel that when he came to me, I was kind of like a deer in headlights. I wanted to give great advice, but I didn't know how to articulate what I do on a daily basis. So I kind of took a few days and a few weeks and just kind of started writing and distilling what it is that being a great parent is to me. I've been a foster parent. My wife and I have been married for 11 years. I've been a foster parent. We had 8 foster children when we lived in Oregon, and a couple that I still keep up with today who I absolutely adore. And I've got 3 children now, and I just wanted to do this because I'm passionate about it. So don't want to get into a long introduction. So without further ado, let's rock and roll. So we're going to kick things off. We're going to talk about some myths about parenthood. We're going to talk about 2 myths in particular in this podcast. And these are myths that I have seen in my life that have negative consequences for parents. For some of us, these myths are powerfully seated in our minds. They can actually direct our behavior, steal our time, steal our energy. If we're going to be kick-ass parents, we need to have every bit of energy that we can, right? I don't know about you, but I can only drink a pot of coffee in a day. And I do sometimes. Here is Kick-Ass Dad's parenting myth number 1. If you aren't a perfect parent, you aren't a good parent. Listen one more time. If you aren't a perfect parent, you aren't a good parent. At first, this may seem kind of counterintuitive, but at the core, this is the negative belief that is at the root of most of the guilt and pain we experience every single day as parents. It's an energy sucker. If you're wasting your time not giving your kids and your life your best because you feel inherently flawed as a person and as a parent, well then good luck, my friend, because you are screwed. This mindset is devastating to the potential kick-ass parent. It's like kryptonite. If you share in this belief for the sake of your own sanity, shake it off right now. It's both false, incredibly disempowering. It's not serving you in any way, shape, or form. We're going to discuss ways to do this in the exercise portion of the podcast, which we'll come up to at the end. But for right now, I'm just asking you to follow me for a second. Keep an open mind and let me explain. I hear parents all the time talk about the things they really screwed up with their kids. It's something they did or said to their children. They get so wrapped up in their failure that they actually think that they have screwed up their kid for life. This is such a destructing and deserving way to think about yourself and your child. This kind of thinking leads to guilt, it leads to loss of energy, it leads to loss of motivation. It can ultimately lead to a negative self-image, possibly leading to depression. But we as parents must, if we're to be successful in the long term, be willing to fail. But most importantly, learn from those failures. You're never going to be a perfect Mr. Cleaver. There will always be a mom in your kid's karate class who just has it all together, right? Don't believe the hype. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors? Who knows what's going on in those homes? Who knows the struggle and the heartache that this person may be going through? No one is better than you. and you're better than no one else. We are all human, we all struggle, and most importantly, we all fail. But here's the distinction I want to offer you. Failure is the fuel to success. We cannot think of parenthood as a sprint that you have to hit every single stride, right? In perfect succession in order to eke out the win, right? Parenthood is a long road. It's a marathon. It's strewn with roadblocks, trip hazards. The best advice that I can give to any new parent is to be okay with screwing up. Be okay with it, but get something out of it. For God's sakes, get something out of it. I truly believe that through our failures, we can crack the code of what it is to be a great parent. We need to learn to play to our strengths, right? If you're not a single parent, you and your partner have different skills. We're going to talk about discovering your strengths and putting them to use in future podcasts, but I just wanted to introduce the topic. We all know the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And as a parent, you must be prepared to course correct along the way. You must be willing to fail. You got to be willing to fall down and get back up. Take the time to learn where the potholes are so you can avoid them in the future. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about being honest with yourself, getting honest feedback from other people so we can face this most epic job of parenthood with passion and grace. I'm interested in hearing the thoughts of this audience, those who are listening to this podcast. I'm interested in creating a network of concerned parents who are inspired to come together to inform, entertain, and fail for the sake of us all succeeding. We'll touch more on that later in the show. But for right now, I want to talk about being a parent. And being a parent is similar to so many other skills in life. It truly is a skill, something that can be mastered. So like most skills, when something is new to you, you find that you're completely terrible at it, right? So if you're a first-time parent and you find yourself fumbling or in fear of screwing up, well, you're probably right at home with every other first-time parent out there. Think of anything that you've done for the first time you got into any kind of sport, baseball, football, basketball. Unless you're a natural, you sucked. But it's with repetition and practice and failure that you actually started to get your feet under you, right? All right. I like to share this little joke about parenting that I love so much, and it's about that first-time parent with the 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old's got the pacifier, and you may have heard this one, but the new parent, the kid drops the pacifier on the floor, right, and the new parent scoops it up off the floor and rushes to the sink, washes it, sanitizes it, rinses it, makes sure it's clean, no bacteria, and then gently rests it into the baby's mouth, right? But by the time the second child is born, the parent just picks it up off the floor, goes to the sink, rinses it underwater, and gives it back to the baby. And after the third child comes along, the parent picks that pasty off the floor, sucks it dad picks it up, puts it in his own mouth, and cleans it off for the kid and pops it right into the kid's mouth, right? So certainly that's not practical advice. I'm not suggesting that, but it does paint the picture of how your parental fears tend to mellow out as you move through the years and realize that a lot of those pitfalls and fears that you had were kind of unwarranted. So the takeaway that I want you to internalize here is this. It's okay to not know what the hell you're doing. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you make the commitment to evolve and grow. Parenthood is just like any other endeavor. Seek to find your purpose. Seek to find your strength and choose to sharpen your skills every single day. We have to find ways to look towards our failures and know that they are just stepping stones towards our success. They're giving us direct experiential data about what not to do again, right? So you make a mistake, you learn from it, you don't make the same mistake again. We really can't know what we want to be unless we first know what we don't want to be, right? Kick-ass dad's parenting myth number 2. If you're not perfect, then mediocrity is the status quo. All right, what do I mean by that? Let me explain. Well, if you can't be perfect, forget it, right? I might as well be an average or crappy parent. I'm not perfect, so screw it. There's no hope for me anyway. There's no instruction manual, so forget it. I'm not even going to try. And, I hear parents constantly making the case for mediocrity. I've done it myself for years. How many times have I joked with a colleague about the difficulty of parenting and the inevitability of me failing my kids? And it's only when we're honest with ourselves about our mistakes that we can use them to our advantage. If we choose to say, well, I did the best I could, or it's not my fault, then we're going to miss the very opportunities that we need to maximize our growth. Yeah, you may have done your best, but the very fact of saying, that's my best, is a proclamation to yourself that the mediocrity that you've achieved was actually your best. Okay, right? So how can you sharpen your saw if you believe that a dull blade is the best that can be manufactured? Look to your own childhood and the successes and failures of your own parents. I think that if we're honest with ourselves, we can glean huge advantages by utilizing the best and the worst experiences with our own parents to craft our own parenting styles. So I'm not talking about Freudian psychology here. You're going to find it extremely difficult to be a great parent if you spend your time blaming your own parents for your deficiencies. We're going to discuss this in future episodes. How do you let go of the resentment, the fear, the guilt of your own childhood, the anger? To be a great parent, you've got to let it go, but you got to learn from it. You got to see those mistakes that your parents made and learn from them. For now, though, let's just focus on being honest with ourselves about the great and not so great things that our parents did. What a letdown it would be for your parents to see their grandchildren and know that you were making the exact same mistakes with your kids that they made with you, right? The greatest gift you can ever give a grandparent is to learn from their mistakes. Whether they tell you that's true or not, I promise you somewhere in their heart, they do not want to see you make the same mistakes with your kids that they made with you. If we don't do that, how can we evolve at all, right? So it's a big, hairy, audacious question, but we do bear some responsibility to the state of our society, to the evolution of our species. We all have a legitimate opportunity to take the negative experiences of our childhood and transform them in a way that our children can benefit from those experiences, both positive and negative. I believe it's a mistake to sweep the negative under the carpet and just use the positive. I really believe that you need to use both to kind of supercharge your parenting style. In life, we have a choice to make. We can look at the people around us and the experiences that we have, both positive and negative, as stepping stones, or we can see them as stumbling blocks. It's all in your perception. All you have in your life, what separates you from everything else, is choice. I think that the game Chutes and Ladders is a great metaphor or topic, as well as our theme right here, right? I always look for simple illustrations to get our point across. Plus, we need to get something as parents of value out of this incredibly boring game. On a side note, remember when we talked about using our strengths? Some parents love to get on the floor and play games with their kids. Some hate it. It's okay. Both are okay. Hopefully, you have a spouse. If you have a spouse, one of you is into this stuff. In our family, it's usually me. I'm the one on the floor playing the games, even dreadfully boring ones where no one loses and everyone wins, right? All right, sorry. So back to task. In Chutes and Ladders, you can hit a slide, right? You can hit a chute that takes you all the way back to square one. You can make a choice to curse the game and flip it over, as my son has a tendency to do. He hates to lose, very competitive young man. We'll talk more about him later. Or you can choose to accept your loss and plot out one square at a time, right? Eventually, just by showing up to play the game, you're going to find that there's plenty of ladders to bring you back up. And eventually, you're going to find one that gets you to your goal. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about finding that ladder. It's about finding ways in the day-by-day, square-by-square monotony of life to find that purpose, to find that ladder that gets us where we want to go. Everyone's passion is different, right? We're all here for a different reason. We all have different things that inspire us, but we all want to find the ladder that gets us to our goal. That's what we have in common. We all want to be inspired. We all want to be energized. We need that inspiration to be the kick-ass dad or the kick-ass mom that you've always wanted to be. So the idea here is that we need to find our purpose first, right? It all starts with us. We need to search within if we want to be that kind of parent. What lights you up on a regular basis? What about when you're not a parent? What outside of being a parent just sparks your imagination? What gives you that sense of purpose and joy? You know, the idea here is we need to figure that out first. What lights you up? What drives and motivates you? That's job number one. We're always going to focus on this question throughout this podcast and finding ways to reveal your authentic self, because that's what's going to give you the energy. That's what's going to give you what you need to elevate your parenting style. So remember, this is not an A to Z guide on how to be a good parent. I'm not going to say, this is the correct way to parent. Please follow these particular steps in this particular order, right? I'm not going to walk you through which levers to pull and which buttons to push just to get your kid to their 18th birthday. I just want to be extremely clear when it comes to being a great mother or being a great father. It's much more than following an instruction manual. And there isn't one, just so you know. It's about getting to the root of your own happiness, of understanding what it is in yourself that is going to give you the most energy and the best opportunity to give the most to your children. We talked about the past and how important honesty is and how critical it is to use both your positive and negative experience of your parents and other parents that you know to use for your own child's advantage, right? The truth is that we're going to use our past to define our parenting styles no matter what. The distinction I really want you to understand here is that we can choose to be conscious or unconscious in how we live those experiences in our lives. The unconscious parent, through habit and training, lives in a reactive mindset. They regurgitate their parents' behaviors, both positive and negative, without thinking. The conscious parent uses logic and understanding while following their heart to dissect the attitudes and motivations that lead parents to act in a certain way and discern what results will be fulfilled by making a particular choice. Don't get caught up in the science of it. But I do want you to understand logically what I'm talking about here. The key here is to gain insight. We need to know why we're parenting the way we are, why we're living the way we are, if we want to get our best results. We need to be very honest and intentional in the way we parent and the way we live our lives. Bottom line, know you're going to screw up. Be okay with it. Know that you have a pool of experiences to use to your advantage from your past, from your present. They're going to be both positive, they're going to be negative. Just wipe the slate clean, man. Get rid of the guilt. The goal of this podcast is to give you practical tools and wisdom that you can use to transform yourself first, so that you can have the energy, the motivation, the passion to be a kick-ass dad or mom, as the case may be. It's just like an airplane, right? Place the oxygen mask on yourself first, then your kid. If you don't have free-flowing oxygen in your mask, you're helpless to ensure that your child does, right? If you can't find purpose and balance in your life, how are you ever going to display that to your children? Children far more often do as you do, not as you say. Think about that deeply. It takes work, it takes care, it takes love, but it's the most important job that you're ever going to do. It's easy to fall into quick fixes. It's easy to fall into simple solution when it comes to life. Your children perceive this. They see when you take the easy way out. They know far more than we ever give them credit for. Just because they can't explain something doesn't mean they don't feel it. How many times have you tried to get your kid to explain to you why they're upset or why they're discouraged or why and they just stare at you with this blank look and they tear up and they can't express themselves, right? They know, they feel, right? They feel why they're upset, but they don't know. They can't explain it. So understand that they get things that we don't quite realize that they're getting. Don't get stuck taking the shortcuts in life. Find your purpose, create your balance, and climb your ladder. It can be extremely challenging to find the energy to do the things that it takes to get where you want to be. But I truly believe that if you can do it by finding your purpose, your wisdom and passion will follow. This is the spring from which your creativity and every bit of energy you have comes forth. It's called the authentic self, right? It's when you act in a certain way or you do certain things that you light up, you know? You can feel it in your belly, you can feel it in your heart, you feel it in your brain, you feel it in your body, right? That's your authentic self. If you're not feeling this way, you're not living your authentic self. And I'm not saying it's easy by any means whatsoever, but I'm saying this is a journey that we're on together. And I want to help you get there, and I want you to help me get there. And the beautiful thing is that it's not that hard. It simply takes some motivation, a little bit of clear intent, some honesty, and an ability to stick with it. I want you to get clear about what kind of life you want to live, what kind of parent you want to be. Then tell your spouse about it. Tell your friends. Make yourself accountable to living up to your best self so you can kick some serious ass. All right? So what's your purpose? You've got to ask yourself, you got to ask the question, what lights you up? What gives you energy and life? And what takes it away? These are tough questions because they're below the surface. They're hidden underneath your cognitive filters. They're underneath your very belief systems. When you wake up in the morning, you know, it's foggy, you're in kind of a shadow. Your entire day is built on the way you think. And the way you think is underneath your belief systems. And it's very difficult to see the second you wake up unless you're really aware of it. You know, most of our beliefs are hidden underneath years of self-deception, quick fixes, emotional numbness to block the pain because we don't know how to create, you know, that energy and that passion from within. So we medicate. You know, it takes time. It's a process, and my journey's a process. Your journey's a process, and it's got to be. Here's what I really want people to know: it's got to be fun. It's got to be entertaining. You want to kick some ass in life. You got to have fun, and it's the same for parenting and disciplining your children. Without a whole lot of fun, it's just too hard. It's just too damn hard. The best moments I've ever had with my kids have been, you know, in fits of raging laughter so good that, you know, you got tears coming out, your stomach hurts, it aches, your mouth is sore, you spin into a coughing fit. This is what makes it all worthwhile. So don't take yourself so damn seriously, and don't take your children so seriously for that matter. The reason I chose to do this podcast is because I truly want to build a community of like-minded parents who are willing to be honest with each other so we can raise the next generation with every possible advantage. I'm inspired to help and be helped by parents so that I can help the next generation be all they can be. I also choose to have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. And I've always found that the most effective way to be the best that I can be is to model myself and study other people who are already doing things that are amazing and that inspire me. And I also choose to look to those people who are failing, you know. And if you can look to the truly successful people and the people who are failing and ask the question why. Why did you fail? Or why were you successful? And a few honest answers can help you develop your own recipe for success in any endeavor, and that includes parenting. If we can create a community that we can rally around the idea of being kick-ass parents while supporting and challenging each other, well, that's my goal. And so if you're like me and you want to discover how to make the most of this most difficult but rewarding endeavor of parenthood, I would love for you to stick around as we map the intellectual landscape of parenthood while looking for practical ways, everyday ways to find purpose and joy in the everyday rigors of parenthood. And whether you just had your first child, or you're a new stepdad, or you're a grandparent, you're a man, you're a woman, I urge you to stick around on this journey with me. And we're going to find interactive ways to discuss the topics as we move forward. I just want to take a moment to clarify, who I am and what I'm speaking to here. The podcast, I'm a man. I'm a father. So the podcast is built from a male perspective. I'm never going to have the same insights as a mother. I never want to diminish that. So I just want to be perfectly clear that, even if I'm speaking to fathers in a certain part of this dialogue, it's never to diminish the mother. In a two-parent family, the relationship between spouses is probably the most critical element in setting the stage for a child's development. Some of us grew up in homes where our parents were fighting all the time and throwing things and punching walls and all this, right? And, those are the experiences that we can use. We can transform those experiences. Let's use the expertise that lives within all of us to make each other's lives better. And I hope that the women who join us for the ride will bear with us as we will sometimes focus on issues that men have in their adventure, specifically to be great parents. And I hope that women who join us will gain insight into their husbands and find ways to bridge the gaps that may be hindering your relationship with your children. So, I'm not a PhD. I don't have a long list of accolades. The only thing that I have, and it's something we all share, and that's experience. So my own experience, as well as the experience of the audience, people around me, people I admire, my own parents who I love dearly, what I do seek to share is that I'm choosing to be okay with my failures. I'm okay with my failures as a parent. I'm okay with my parents' failures as parents. And I'm okay with your failures as parents. In the end, we've got to stop looking at our missteps as these giant failures. And we hide them, right? So what happens when we hide them? We don't help each other grow. We don't help each other evolve. We don't help ourselves evolve. And we've got to be willing to be honest and open up and share, because if we don't do that, if we don't share what we did wrong, then we leave everyone else wide open to make the exact same mistakes. And we allow more struggle to be in the world than is absolutely necessary. And I think it's a mistake. It's unnecessary. The idea behind the podcast is to rally a community around these ideas, that it's important to evolve as parents and as people. And what better way to do that than to put our cards on the table, to come together for the benefit of any child whose parent gets just the littlest tidbit from this community to make their lives better and their child's life happier, a little more joyful, a little more fun. If we can do those little things, I truly believe we can impact lives. So what more important thing do we have to focus on than the next generation? Are we willing to be the generation that says enough is enough? We've got to stop teaching our kids that violence and struggle and hate is the way of the world, right? Are we going to be the people that decide to step up, to get honest with ourselves, to make a change? Small, deliberate changes that you make every single day that have built on over time will yield results you can scarcely imagine. I urge you, the listener of this podcast, to email me your ideas, topics, experiences. What's working for you? What do you want to hear about? What's working in your family? What's not? What's something that absolutely inspired you that you could inspire someone else with? They may very well change someone's life. And I'm just the facilitator here. I want to hear from you. So please, if you're feeling inspired, if you think you have something to offer, don't wait. Reach out to me. You can email me at kickassdad1@gmail.com. Again, that's kickassdad1@gmail.com. I tried to just do kickassdad@gmail.com, but it was taken. So don't forget the one, or I won't get it. And let your voice be heard and make a difference in a child or parent's life. I would also love to do an interview with a parent every week. So if you have an inspiring story or an obstacle you've overcome, I would love to hear from you. Maybe even just 10 minutes, a morsel of wisdom. My cards are on the table, guys. I'm all ears. So I'm also going to be launching my blog. It'll be kickassdad.com. I haven't registered it yet, so we'll see if I have to change the name a little bit to get the space, but I looked it up and nobody's got it yet, so we'll see. And we'll have content as well as a forum for us to connect as a community and inspire each other. So, all right, so that was a lot of information to absorb. Feel free to listen to the podcast again if you like, but we'll have plenty more topics to talk about as we move forward. But I just want to recap quickly. All right, so number one, you are better than no other parent, and no other parent is better than you. Bam. Do that. Believe that. Live that. They may be more experienced or further along in their path, but that's their evolution, not yours. 2, you do not have to be a perfect parent to be a kick-ass parent. You too can be great. It's only a matter of mindset, of how you perceive yourself. So we're going to talk more about your personal narrative in episode 2. So let's move on to number 3. Because you're not perfect does not mean that you have to resign to mediocrity. Come on, screw perfection, right? Don't settle for mediocrity. Set your sights on kick-ass. Remember, if you aim for the stars and fail, but land on the moon, you have come an awful long way. 5, don't forget to have fun. Fun leads to happiness and high energy levels. This is the key to unlocking the connection with your kids. 6, 5. Okay, those are out of order. See, you don't need to be perfect. Find your purpose. Gain clarity in your life. Discover what sets you on fire. And use that as fuel for your parenting style. All right, everyone still with me? Great. All right, so exercise time. This is your opportunity to take theory to reality, to bring it into the world. All right, so exercise number 1. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to share a lot on this journey, but we can't just let this stuff sit in theory, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And that's why it's so important to transform these concepts into your life with action. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts and different people and motivational speakers. And one of my favorites is Tony Robbins. And he always says, take massive action, right? So I think most importantly, it's first you got to find your purpose, right? Or there's not going to be any motivation to take massive action. But once you figure it out, you got to begin to take action. And if you take massive action, you're going to see bigger results. Without action, this stuff never gets out of your head and into the world. So I'm urging you to follow through with me on this. All right, here we go. We got to bust myth number 1 wide open, right? We got to spill it on the ground. We got to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. I never actually understood why phoenix is spelled like that. Phoenix. Shouldn't the E come first? Anyway, back to the exercise. Sorry. All right. Myth number 1. If you're not a perfect Mr. Cleaver, then you're not a good parent. Let's break this out, okay? All right. Part 1. I want you to think of a time that you believe you failed your children. Seriously, go back. I want you to take a second. This is important. Pause the podcast. I want you to really think of that one major screw up that made you go, wow, I can't believe I did that. I must be an awful parent. I want you to be honest with yourself. You know, that time that you just felt like shit. All right? Pause the podcast. Pause it now. If you haven't paused it, I know who you are. I'm working with the NSA right now. We're spying on you. I can see you in the gym or in your car on your headphones. I'm watching. Stop the program. Pause it. Think of the time that you truly felt like you just failed your children. Pause the podcast. All right, so great job to those of you who did part 1. So you now paused the podcast and you thought of that time, right? All right, so now I want you to put your guard down. I want you to do the thing that men hate the most, that most dreadful of actions. I'm with you on this. I know how it feels. I want you to listen to your feelings, all right? I know it's hard, guys, but I need you to stay with me. It's worth it, man. To my lovely lady listeners, some of you have an advantage here, but it's still not easy. All right, part 2. Really, really feel what you felt like when you were at your worst, right, as a parent. All right, don't give up on this. Feel it in your belly. Feel it in your heart. Now I want you to add all the other times in your life. You don't have to think about it specifically, but feel. Anytime you felt like a failure, take all that in. Take it into your belly. It needs to hurt, guys, all right? So let it permeate your body. Let it permeate your mind. Let the pain come in. Let it expand. Take your time. Now I want you to pause the podcast again. Feel it. All right, welcome back. So you should really be feeling the pain of this step. It should be so intense that you can barely stand it. All right, part 3. Stop it. This is the pain of being a failure, but you are not a failure. This is simply the pain of failing, of making a mistake. You made a mistake. Additionally, it's the pain of falling short of your perceived expectations that others put on you, okay? It's time to make that change. We're going to literally recreate our thought process and our painful experience. This is the key to transformation. All right, so part 4. Pause the podcast and say to yourself in your mind, I want you to do this, guys, please. I am not a failure. This is the pain of failure. This is not who I am. Repeat it several times like a mantra, like an affirmation. Pause now, and I want you to do that again, all right? In your head, I'm not a failure. This is the pain of failure. This is not who I am. Okay, pause the podcast. All right, so now it's time to create a new belief. Repeat after me. I am a kick-ass dad or mom. I cannot fail. I use my mistakes as fuel for success. Pause now. I want you to repeat it. I am a kick-ass dad or a kick-ass mom. I cannot fail. I use my mistakes as fuel for my success. Pause the podcast. All right, welcome back. This is the process of personal transformation, of facing old belief systems and creating new ones that drive your success. You can use this action throughout your life in any experience you're having pain and anything that you can't get past. I want you to remember this. I want you to write it down, take a note, come back and listen as part of the podcast. This is an important process. It's something that everyone deserves to have in their toolbox of living a great life. All right? Figure out what's hurting you the most. Face the pain. Feel the pain. Expand the pain. Simply remind yourself that this is not who you are. It's a creation of your mind. Visualize yourself however you like, destroying this belief. Punch it in the face. Drop a bomb on it. All right? Launch a missile. Blow it up, man. And create a new belief. Create a powerful, specific belief that drives the actions that will help you achieve your goals. And some of you just listened to that whole exercise section through, and now you're saying to yourself, what kind of bullshit, hippy-dippy crap is that? All right, don't worry. I've already contacted the NSA. We know who you are. We're coming after you. Homeland Security should be arriving shortly. All right. So if you're going to change your life, you got to first change your mind, right? Know thyself. You must change your mental maps that govern your actions. If you change your mind, you change your world. If you're spending your life complaining and saying that this is garbage and that is garbage, then yes, it's exactly what it'll be. You'll find exactly what you're looking for. All right? One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So listen up. You're never going to be at your best. For those of you who did the exercise, congratulations. You've taken the first step to creating a kick-ass mindset. I'll see you guys next week as we talk about our personal narratives and we spend some time kicking some ass together, all right? If you've enjoyed this podcast, please, we could really use your help. We're trying to create a community here. We're trying to get as many people involved as possible. So what I need you to do, if you could do this for me, it'd be much appreciated. I want honest feedback, but please go to iTunes, give a review. You know, if this is impactful to you, what it does on iTunes is the more reviews we get, the better those reviews are, the more it positions us in iTunes to reach more people, and then we can build our community even bigger. So my goal is to impact as many people. My goal is to be a facilitator. My goal is to learn from you. My goal is to be the best dad I can be, but I need your help to do that. So please, if you've enjoyed this, take 2 minutes, give us a review, honest feedback. That's what we're looking for. If you hated the podcast, fine. Tell me about it. But if you loved it, please let us know. Thank you so much. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening. This is a quick edit. The blog is up. It's going to be www.kickassdadblog.com. Kickassdad was taken. So that's going to be kickassdadblog.com. That's how you'll find us online. And I encourage you to take a visit. Let's kick some mics.